Okay, good afternoon.
Hi, Nicole.
Good to be with you. So, for those of our listeners and everyone and everybody tuning in today, my name is Nicole Coppi, and I'm the owner of Blue Heart Studio in San Antonio. And today I am with Lisa Asvestas. So, Lisa is a shamanic breathwork facilitator, a shamanic minister, founder of Third Eye Tribe, nonprofit organization, and the steward of Spiral Dance Ranch, to name a few. She's a mother of three, a grandmother of two, and the owner and operator of The Cove for over 20 years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow. Thanks. Thank you, Nicole. It's good to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm curious. I wanted to so the main purpose of us meeting today is really we're coming into collaboration, our second annual collaboration at Blue Heart, which was a natural rhythms collaboration that we did last year. And so we're really setting up and kind of telling more about what that is. But before I get into that, I'd like to hear and tell more about like our story and how we came together in sisterhood, because I think that story is like so special to my heart and just tells a little bit about you and a little bit about me in a really, really beautiful way. So, I mean, taking it back, like we were connected in and out through the yoga community at 1.5 Points Local, which was a staple here in San Antonio as well for yoga and amazing food that you were also the owner of. And we were in that kind of community, and then shamanic breath. I was coming to shamanic breath at 5 Points as well. And then where it really kind of kicked off is when we saw each other at Brookdale. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so why don't you take it a
Yeah.
little more from there?
Yeah. Yeah. My grandmother was there. My grandmother was in her 90s, Olivia. And she was at Brookdale. And I remember when you and I ran into each other, you were teaching yoga to the elderly. And I just thought that was really beautiful. And it really made me, just love the place. Like knowing that you were there and that that was happening was really great. And I know my grandmother loved those classes. So that's how we reconnected,
Mhm.
um, and connected. And then when COVID hit in 2020, and my restaurants closed down, including 5 Points. I made the choice to bring my grandmother to live with me. They were closing down the nursing homes. You were not going to be able to visit. And I just knew that my grandmother would not like that one bit, not to be able to be with her family. And so I made the choice to go on an adventure with her. And, she had a little bit of dementia, as you know, a little bit. So I brought her home, and it just, I remember getting the message to reach out to you, to help, because it was quite a bit with the restaurants being closed. I'll just never forget, trying to talk on the phone and handle things, and her, just maybe not for remembering where she was at, or, just to have episodes. And I'd be like, oh, just a minute. So I remember reaching out, and during that time, which I think was probably like 9 months, a year even, that we were all going through something, our lives were all being shifted in a big way. And it was huge for me that I invited you to come into my home and take care of Olivia, my grandmother, and work with her. And it was beautiful the way we connected and had those memories and that time with her. And I know she absolutely loved you. And yeah, those were very special times.
Yeah, that was amazing. And what was there were so many things that, well, first of all, like what an amazing foresight you had to be able to, and what a blessing that you were able to like pull her to be with family during that time. Because there's so many, I mean, so many elderly like didn't have that opportunity, and like that alone and in and of itself was like such a beautiful foresight and such a beautiful blessing to be able to do that for Miss Olivia.
I really just want to say something else about that, because that foresight, intuition, like a voice of like, this is what you need to do, and then my head could get around like, how are you going to do this? She needs a lot of care. You're in this place. But I really stayed in my heart, and really listen, like it will come, you will find the next steps on how to handle this. The people will come that are going to help, which was you, like helping. And so it was just listening to the heart, and instead of the brain, and thinking all the things that, like, I can't figure this out, just being like, no, this is the right step. This is what she needs. Just do it. And it will work out. And it was something I will always cherish. My grandmother was my rock growing up, and I am so grateful that I got to be her rock, when her last years, she passed here in 2022 in my home, surrounded by her family, the way that she would have wanted it. So I'm really happy that I listened to my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like that's 99% of the work is not only listening, but like following through and not going the easier path or what you think what your thoughts are telling you is going to be the easier path because of fear and how am I going to figure it out? But yeah, it's beautiful. And what was amazing is being part of that. Like to be able to be part of that and to see a family that is like wrapped around like this matriarchal love. Like, because you could feel that Miss Olivia was like the heart and center. And so it was beautiful to see that and to bear witness to that and your family get to know you more, get to like just feel into that in general and to keep myself in service, in a time that was, very confusing. 2020 and COVID and everything went to zero and it was like how am I going to pay my bills and so it's amazing how when you say yes to things in your heart those blessings not only bless you but so many others around you as well because that's what that was for me was carrying me through a very uncertain time in a really beautiful way.
I remember that. Like we found each other, and I remember witnessing your journey, your journey with school and finding the things that you were going to do during that time. And so I remember and like looking back, like knowing you now and where we were then and just I'm just, really uh just so in love with what you've created for yourself and watching that fire that I saw then, the kindling of a fire and just like grow. And so it's really beautiful to witness your journey.
Thank you. Thank you. And I mean, at that time as well was the stirring of the pot of Shamanic Dance Ranch, or I'm sorry, Spiral Dance Ranch as well. So during that time, I mean, tell us more about that. Like what was going on as you were going out and looking at land.
Yeah, I got a message from spirit, like look for land, look for land. And it's something that was sitting kind of way back. And I thought, later on in my life, when I'm done hustling and bustling and, running the restaurants and that I'll look, and then I got that message and my mind again was like, this is not a good time. Your restaurants are closed down. You don't know where you're going to be. You need to just hold on tight to everything, hold on tight to your savings, hold on tight. And I kept getting the message late at night, so there I am scrolling at night, looking and looking. And I had really never explored this area out in the hill country, out in this beautiful landscape that Spiral Dance Ranch is out by Utopia, Texas. And I remember going out there and just falling in love with it. And this piece of land found me. It was not up. I was looking and looking. It was not up. They had taken it down. And then all of a sudden they had put it back up. And it found me. And it was way more than I was even considering, stepping into. I was thinking a few acres, it's 26 acres, it's just that, and it had a house on it. I was thinking just get land, and it had a beautiful house that was perfect for what was being called in. So I made the leap, and it took me like, it was a lot of work. And I know you were there for all that. I mean, it was just going through hoops to figure out how to make this happen. So in the shamanic teachings, we call that the earthwork, and so just doing all the earthwork and all the different ways to make it happen, to get the money, to get the down payment, to get the financing. And I'm so happy with myself that I just kept enduring that and kept going like, you got this, this is going to happen. And I always tell this story. So you've heard it a few times, but being on the land, like the second time I went out there to look at it and being out in this beautiful, the lower Sabinal River runs through there. And I was out on this beautiful rock with the water. And I felt like it was the earth saying like, you're going to be here. You're going to be here. And I just remember crying and thinking like, oh my gosh, like it's going to happen. and then I was so in my heart feeling it. And then my mind was started to take over, like, oh, all the things I can do, and then just this feeling came over me of quiet. And I just heard like, just let people come to the land, like open your heart, open the land to the people. This is between me and each human being that shows up here. Like this is a intimate healing. This is an intimate connection. And then I was just like, oh, well, that's great. And then I heard, and you like, you be you, you like, you just be, which gave me a lot of freedom, like to not, because I think, I had not think I was really coming from a place of do, and like a heaviness of all the things that I had taken on and just like, this kind of feeling of, and it was just like, oh no, that's not it actually. It's just being like, be this, and I'll do all the healing. I'll do all, and so it's been quite a amazing journey. And that was 2020. That was in September. It happened in September. And then we were, in January of 2021, we began our shamanic healing initiatory process retreats out there, just stepped in big time and have not looked back, have continued to just open our hearts and open my heart and grow and welcome so many people out there. So it's been so beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. I didn't get a chance to get out onto the land until, well, so my 40th birthday happened in a couple year and a half ago or so. And during my 40th birthday, I went on a vision quest, a desert vision quest, with a bunch of women, 11 of us or 13 of us over 11 days. And we were fasting in the desert, big prayers like being put up and, just getting really connected to the land, giving myself vision for the next portion of my life. And on that third day that I was in ritual, or rather, on that third day that I was on my fast out in the middle of the desert on my own, I woke up and that day was my birthday. And it came to me like while I was out there on top of a rock looking over everything, that I could continue this kind of work, this like land work, this like inner work, this, co-creating with the land, conversations with the land by reconnecting with you and what was going on at Spiral Dance Ranch. So and I joined up in 2024 to go on my first round of the Spiral with the with the ship program. And so we just finished up a year out there, and I can 100% fully attest to the power of the land. I mean, just the power of the land and the kind of the way that you intentionally move toward and have a conversation with the land, that the land indeed does speak back to you in this really amazing, healing, beautiful way. So I'm incredibly grateful to be part of SHIP and from SHIP, and maybe you can give me a little more clarity on this, but there's the Third Eye Tribe of Venus Rising. So that's your community. That's it. That's the community that you cultivate. And how did that come into being?
Well, my teacher, Linda Starwolf, she is the founder of Venus Rising in North Carolina. And I started studying with her in 2017. And I fell in love with her and I fell in love with her organization and the shamanic breathwork. That opened me up at a time when I was going through quite a bit and going through a big transformation and a death and rebirth, but didn't really have that language around death and rebirth. So was also trying to just keep doing things the way I'd always done them and didn't even realize that. So I had my first breath work in Teotihuacan, Mexico, and just heard after the breath work, you are tattered and you don't know who you are. And that breath work was through a friend of mine, but who had studied with Starwolf. So when I heard Starwolf's name, I always say like my little wolfy ears started like going like, I just need to know everything about her. And I found myself like 2 weeks later in North Carolina for 2 weeks for her SHIP program, her transformational program. It was the first time her partner had passed and she had not held circle for over 2.5 years during her grieving period and during her death and rebirth. So I happened to be there when she stepped back in, and there was like 40 people from all over the world that were in this tent, this huge tent. And I had never felt so much love from her community, from so, and and just was so amazed at this process of breath work and the shamanic teachings. And so it set me on a path, and I stuck by her side for over 2 years, just following her and being with her. We traveled to Egypt together, which was a huge initiation. We traveled to Peru together, uh, traveled to Mexico with her, and back to North Carolina, and then Bali. And in 2019, I was ordained a shamanic minister, shamanic breathwork facilitator, and began the process of Third Eye Tribe. So I just was all in at once, and knew it was my way. It seemed like it was something I had always been looking for. It just felt like home, everything, the shamanic teachings, the drum, the songs, the community, all of it, this idea of death and rebirth. All of it was just like, oh, yes, this is your way. And so and she saw something in me too that I didn't see and I didn't recognize. She saw me. She's like, I see you, who you are. And so I really love that. And I always want to be that for other women or other people, and men and women, to really just be present and see them. And because I think we need that for each other, to hold that space. So I came back and we started right in 5 points. We started the breathworks, the shamanic breathworks right away. I opened up a small healing center right down the street called Casa Mariposa. It was a tiny little building that I remodeled and fixed up. And I kind of laugh, I loved that little place. And we had a little sweat lodge in the back. And I never really just to see how much it's grown, like Spiral Dance Ranch and the community. It's like, I don't know, I'm humbled by it. And also just like, that was like that was one spiral, the Casa Mariposa and 5 points, and then having to let that die, which was really hard. But also it opened up for the bigger spiral and the bigger picture, the bigger vision. And so I just think that speaks to like death and rebirth, of letting things go so that new can come in and the vision can come in. So that's been my path. And I definitely try to see her once a year. She's been here a few times. I'm hoping to have her back in 2025. But yeah, that's my journey with the breath work and with the shamanic path.
Yeah, the being part of Third Eye Tribe and the people who it attracts are just some of the most. I think the thing that I love most about Third Eye Tribe is how people are showing up that actually want to do the work,
Mhm.
right? That want to soften into, and they want the information, they want the guidance, they want to, unlock this deeper part of themselves that they know is present. And it's like, it's been really wonderful to watch you move through all of this as well, because what I have really seen from you over even this last year and walking the path with you this year is how playful you are, and how and it's like and the feminine, and like relaxing into your feminine, and how playful you are. And even like when I'm like, oh, and I have an outline, you're like, I just want to flow, right? Like just and that's a beautiful place to be, because as a business owner who is tasking and who's working and who in the matrix is like really like, and this and this, and there's so many balls in the air, and all of that, to be able to move into a place in the land where it's a resting back and letting the land do the work and allowing, your spirit to just flow through you. It's really something beautiful to watch and behold, and an inspiration to continue forward, with SHIP and with Third Eye Tribe as well. Yeah.
Thanks. I love that. I feel like I'm receiving so much healing on the land, and yes, I've have felt safe, and just have allowed that inner child to be out there and play. And yeah, like I said, that lifting of, oh, everything has to be so, um, so with the community, we are building a community of trust and love, and yeah, when you have those things, I feel like my little girl can come out and play. And so I love that. And I love that you witnessed that shift in me, yeah.
Yes, yes. The for me, this work in this past year has been really in like coming back to the divine masculine, feeling my own inner masculine in a more connected and stable way. And I'm always like in my mind or in my thoughts still chasing like a connected, integrated feminine. And so and I'm drawing that in. So I'm drawing that in the to shift a little bit and to pull this in as well. We've got the natural rhythms and shamanic breathwork collaboration coming up. And it's like, as I'm drawing in the feminine, the archetype of Sita, which is a yogic goddess. The story that we're going to be looking at is a story of the Ramayana and Sita and Rama and their relationship, and her as a feminine archetype, as the goddess of devotion and mystical submission. And it's a lot of shadow feminine, Lisa.
Ooh.
Anytime you throw in submission, right? Like submission is like, ooh, what do we submit to? But this is the story. It's like this, the as I move into ship and some of the things that I'm focusing on this year are really like these different archetypes of the feminine and where I'm uncomfortable and where what I need to see, what I need to look at, what I feel like, oh no, 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 that's not me at all. That you look at someone and she's very beautiful and she's singing a song and you're like, I'm not that. Right. And that's just me in shadow. So like
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of what I'm playing with. When I say something like that, when I talk about the shadow feminine, what comes up for you?
Well, what I like, you're sharing the story and the myth and the archetypes. So like we need to dive into these archetypes because this is the language around the feminine, right? The feminine, like what the archetypes of the feminine, the traits, the yeah. So I'm really digging it, like yes, let's dive into these archetypes and also the shadow, right? So both. And when you say the word, you said the word uh not surrender. I was looking at surrender,
Submission.
submission, right? And so I was thinking, submission, surrender, thinking about those words. And so I just love this play because I think, I know from my own work around shadow and archetypes, like there's so much um, juiciness there, when we start to dive into these stories and I also like what you're saying about like, oh, that's not me, because what we're learning is like, well, first of all, you wouldn't even recognize it, right? You wouldn't even recognize it if it wasn't in you, right? You wouldn't recognize that. And so that's part of the shadow work. It's like, oh, like that's not me. Actually, it is you, right? And so doing that work around the shadow. I love shadow work. I absolutely love it. I think everybody needs to be doing their shadow work. And it's an ongoing process. It never ends because there's always more to uncover, which is really beautiful. Otherwise, I think it would just be boring. It's like, oh, I'm done. So, there's always layers and layers, petals and petals to look at, smell, of ourselves. And so I'm excited for our second annual workshop together. I remember last year you just, I think you had just opened up or just,
Mhm.
and just have seen your fire this year and growing. And so definitely looking forward to sitting with you and holding space with you.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. The way that this workshop came around last year was recognizing really for the first time last year, I recognized like, oh, like when I get into the winter, I don't feel like setting intentions in January. Like it's like this whole idea of like the new year turning over in January. It's like that's not what the earth feels like it needs. That's not what I feel like I need. And it's like as December comes along, it really feels like December, January, and February are like a time of turning inward and deep rest and deep listening and just this whole idea of like wintering and that these new beginnings and these intentions would be more suited maybe for the spring, right? Like it's like when the seeds are like beginning to sprout and so I was wondering in that idea of the cyclical rhythm of the earth and these like natural rhythms that we're just called to as human beings who are part of Mother Earth, like what does wintering look like and feel like for you? Like what are some changes that you make? What are some foods that you eat to support yourself through winter?
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree with you that we are like our society does like has it wrong, and it can really be throwing you off. Like you said, like this is the wintering time. That's the natural rhythm. And we're supposed to be like making all these, New Year's resolutions and things for the next year. And it's like, no, no, it's actually time to be quiet. So I've really gotten into this rhythm of, yes, being quiet, being quiet. And that's just like doing less out social things for me, because I can be I'm not really a social person. But I have a lot of interaction. So just like quieting that and quieting the mind. I've also been inspired by a good friend to do somewhat of a dieta, and so I've given up some of the things that I love, so giving up sugar, cannabis, which is something that I like. I've given that up, and that's been really beautiful. What else have I given up? There's a couple of other things. So yeah, just like making a sacrifice, giving some things up just to kind of see where I'm at, like see where I'm at. And I've been allowing myself to be tired, it's getting darker sooner. It was, it's just starting to shift, but instead of being in this mindset of why am I tired, or oh, I got to get things done. I'm being lazy. It's like, no, 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 you're wintering. Like, it's okay. It's okay to not answer all the text messages. It's okay to not go through all the emails, it's like, it's okay. So reading books, like from beginning to end, instead of just being online or getting snippets, like actually, finished a whole fairy tale book and really enjoyed that. So just I would say slowing down physically and also slowing down mentally for sure, and being okay with that. And one of the things, and also I think it's been really medicine for me because, and it's a whole other topic. We don't really need to get into it. I know it's something that you and I both talk about is grief, and so I noticed like I can stay busy, 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 so that maybe I'm not unconsciously not touching my grief. So what I've noticed in the last month or last few weeks is, oh wow, like maybe I don't know as much as I thought about processing my grief, or maybe I've got a little block around processing my own grief, because it's like, I'm tired and this and that. It's like, actually, I think I'm feeling some grief. So I've really enjoyed the quieting time, the time in my own solitude, the time on the dieta to just really like be with myself. And so I am uncovering some things during this time.
I feel that. I feel that. And I feel like I mean, in a similar way, I'm sleeping a lot more. Just like there's no 6 a.m. It's just not. And there will be again. But it is not now. And I feel that. And like when you talk about grief, and I'm so glad you brought it up, is that it seems like the time in the winter is really about, I mean, for myself, I can distract myself very easy. It's super easy, especially my biggest point of time, just a time suck can really be social media, specifically Instagram. I'm like, call myself out all day long, but it's like, and I'm like 10 minutes in, and then I'm like an hour and a half in, and I'm like, how did this happen? And so it's just like putting down my phone. And it's like the more time that I allow for silence, like deeper I go into my own being, and it's inevitable that grief is always there. That's like
Mhm.
the deeper I go, no matter, the deeper I go into quiet, grief is always waiting for me. And it can be a personal grief that is, my uncle died on Sunday. That's true. My dad's brother died on Sunday. So my family is deeply in it. We lost Vanessa
Mhm.
uh, at the beginning of the year. She transitioned to Ancestor, which is beautiful. And it's also deep grief in the way that we live our lives in this modern time. The disconnection from the earth, which also equates to a disconnection from the body.
Mhm.
And those things, I mean, that's like, I feel like as soul beings, when we come into bodies and we come into earth, we have this expectation for what it could be. And it's almost like we grieve the lack of what it could be, the fullness of what it could be. And I also say that to say that, Ship and Spiral Dance Ranch, allow us to touch into what could be.
Mhm. Yeah, out there, there's not, you really can't escape it because you are disconnected. You are off. There is no social media. Hallelujah. The phones do not work. There is no internet. So you don't have a choice but to unplug. And I, sister, am right with you with the social media thing. And it's so funny because my mind can do tricks. It's like, well, I know it's addictive, I know that. So, and there I am too. Mine has been, I hate to say it, but X lately, Twitter is like, oh my gosh, I'm just like, I have to set an alarm clock and then I have to just, so yeah, even for us who know, that it's addictive, it can still be an issue. So that's what I love about the land is that you're completely unplugged. And I got this feeling a few years back in ship, just we were sitting there in the Grateful Hall and the beautiful cypress were just at the windows looking in, I call them my friends. They are my friends. And I just remember like, oh, like we're being informed, like you're talking about the grieving for our disconnection, to our bodies and to nature. It's like when you get out there and you're away from all of the technology and all of that, like nature is informing you. It's informing you. You're being informed, like with all the beautiful patterns and life. And I mean, just everything. You're taking it all in. And so it is really reaching on a deep, deep level of healing, and of your frequency. So, and I know you've connected to it out there. You're speaking into it too. So yeah, I'm grateful that I can get out there and disconnect. Like I don't know how I would have made it through my grief and if I did not have a place to just be on my knees in nature.
Yeah. Yeah. And the bigger conversation around grief between you and I think is coming.
Yes. I
Because we
agree.
can really dig in here. There's no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt. So I'm curious, you do have, as you're going through this time and wintering, my curiosity is because we're always on the path and we're always coming around to our next level of integration and our next level of healing. What has been your last big breakthrough?
Personally or just
Whatever you'd like to share.
let me think about it. I'm always having breakthroughs.
Yeah.
I just want to say something about what you shared. One day you sent me a message and you shared a transmission that you had and about, that 2024, was the end of the beginning for Spiral Dance Ranch, the end of the beginning. And I really heard that, and it was a breakthrough for me that I've been sitting with, about the spiral. And so I guess it's been this breakthrough for like this a realization that it's way bigger than you, Lisa. Like it feels like a surrender to the path or a surrender to spirit. Like I don't have to know all the answers. Like it is unfolding in front of me. And the next, it is happening because it needs to happen, right? Because this is part of our healing so that we can be in right relationships with our bodies, with our communities, with the land. And right. So there seems to be like some surrender in me of, like, wow, look at what happened between, 2020 and 2025. Like, look at what happened. And, look at all the, the people that showed up and the energy and the healing. And so there's just seems to be a surrender in me and it's been an aha moment. And then something that came through this year too, that I'm sure you heard was just this, it's like, I trust this process, like witnessing what happens when people come together in community. And, I just see people come for the first time out there and you could just see the look and the energy and then watch as they just start to woof, woof, and people start to become authentic. And it's just like, hello, another myself. Oh, yes, we're all experiencing all of humanity, like all the things in humanity, all the suffering and the joy. And so that's my aha moment is the surrender and then this trusting the process. I trust this process.
Yeah, I trust this process as well. Yeah. So we started another round around the spiral path in February, right? So we've been talking about ship. So I always forget the I, initiatory. I always try to say integration.
Mhm.
So ship is shamanic healing initiatory process.
Right.
And we're starting out again in February. So it's February 13th all the way through February 16th. That's a Thursday through a Sunday.
Yes.
And
I'm
we
so
we begin
excited.
another round. Yes, I'm excited. The thing that it's been an interesting beginning of the year because from a numerological perspective, 2025 is a nine, right? You have the two plus two is four plus five is nine, and nine is the endings of a cycle. And so that's how that conversation started in the nine is it was like this is the end of the beginning for Spiral Dance Ranch. And what I recognize in a universal nine is that there's a lot of points of completion that are
Mhm.
coming. And we've already seen that very much with a really volatile January. Like a lot of endings for people in the LA fires. And like there's a lot going on. And I think that the nine energy is going to be so big this year that it's like, I feel like going into ship and like, first of all, we've got one more this year. We're not doing four, we're doing five because we're doing
Mhm.
Inner Beloved, which I'm super grateful for. And it's just like a time to like touch in and retreat and
Mhm.
recover and release and let go of like so many of us as like as bright lights as stars who just shine our light. So many of us just need a place to retreat and recover and reintegrate and touch into the land and let the land fill us up. And I'm really looking forward to ship as a really soft and gentle landing place in a year of completion.
Mhm. Yes, yes, I feel that. I feel that. And I'm super excited. I feel like it's that touchstone. It's the time we can go and do our cleaning, clearing, connecting, and then like you said, be those shining lights that we all are in the community. And so I am super excited. And yes, we're going to have 5 this year, so we're going to give plenty of time for shadow, the full, and plenty of time for inner beloved. They both deserve the full, the full weekend. So yes, it starts on Thursday night. And one thing that I didn't speak into is that we're also really adding in the beautiful teachings that we have learned from my teacher Quatley, my good friend and teacher Quatley, around the indigenous medicine, and so the medicine of the land and the teachings around connecting to the land and the songs, the prayer, the sweat lodge. So those are all things that are part of it as well to get us there. And so yes, I'm super excited about being in it with you again and witnessing what happens when community really brings their intention to come together and heal and grow.
Yes, I'm like, amen. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of good things coming up. I mean, we've got our natural rhythms and shamanic breath work that's coming up Saturday, February 8th at 1 p.m. And that's at Blue Heart Studio. And that's a collaboration between Lisa and I. So that's going to we're going to do storytelling. So we're going to go through the story of Sita. We're going to do some movement, probably Kundalini based movement. And Lisa will be facilitating shamanic breath work. And I'm hoping to co-facilitate this time and to be up and with you and a
I would
little.
love that. I would love
Yes, I think that would be amazing. Yeah, so that's coming up. And then there's also opportunities to meet with you in shamanic breathwork. I know that there's one coming up by the end of January. What's the date on the January breathwork?
25th, the last Saturday, and that's going to be at MBS,
At MBS, yep.
Partner Studio, down in Southtown. So yeah, we've been holding them there for a while. So yeah, that'll be our first one of the year. We haven't had one in quite a while. So that's going to be great. We're going to have that. Yeah.
Lots of great offerings, lots of opportunities to get connected to community, get connected to breath, get connected to spirit. So it's really exciting. Lisa, as we kind of as we kind of wrap up here, there's a practice in early Christianity, and it's the practice of the Desert Mothers and the Desert Fathers, and people would travel far and wide to go and visit these Desert Mothers and Desert Fathers, and they would come to them and they would ask them for a word, and this word was something of the heart that was more than just words, but also like a transmission of the heart as well. And so my question is to you, without any pressure at all. Beloved sister, beloved mother, beloved grandmother, give us a word.
Love, 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 love. I can feel that in my heart. My heart feels warm right now. Just this remembering of love, and love is the energy.
Yes, I appreciate it. I feel it too. I feel it too. It's nice to slow down and connect. Yeah.
Yeah, I love you, Nicole. I love you, and I love being on this path with you and sisters, watching each other, like holding each other, supporting each other, witnessing each other. It's a blessing, and I'm in love.
Yes, absolutely. I witness the thing that I always come back to is your yes.
Mm.
Right, like that, and we talk about it in Christianity quite a bit when the angel comes to Mary and says, "You will be born a son," and she says yes, and
Mm.
that yes, that single yes from a woman who embodied this, beautiful gift from God, is that which went out and changed the world, and I think of that yes often, and I think about what that yes means for me, and I see that yes in you as Spiral Dance Ranch and as this work that you're doing and as this way that you're showing up, and so I have tremendous gratitude and reverence for your yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. I look
Absolutely.
forward to being with you very soon. We'll come out of our wintering
There you go.
together.
Sounds good. Lisa, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thank you. You too. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
So, oh, that feels so good.
Yes, yes.
That feels so good.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. It was really good.